Very good afternoon. This is the Midday News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Ashwarya with you. All the developing news stories at the top of this hour coming up ahead. First up, the headlines. Boost for BJP in the Northeast. 10 MLAs of Sikkim Democratic Front joined the BJP, giving a huge setback to the opposition in the state. Supreme Court orders online-only publication of exclusion list on 31st of August, rejects re-verification of NRC data, says must secure NRC data like Aadhaar. Big relief for Amrapali home buyers. The Supreme Court orders Noida, Greater Noida authorities to begin registration of flats, warns officials of serious consequences including jail term if order not completed on time. Jammu and Kashmir slowly returning to normalcy. Authorities restrictions relaxed in 9 Kashmir districts. Curfew relaxed in 5 Jammu districts. Army chief says the forces prepare against any threat. And decision on Jammu and Kashmir, India's internal matter. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar tells Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, India and China signed 5 agreements, agreed to increase people-to-people contacts. First up, news from the northeast of the country, and the 10 MLAs of the Sikkim Democratic Front joined the BJP today in the presence of BJP's working president JP Nadda and leader Ram Madhav. Now, barring Sikkim's former Chief Minister Pawan Kumar Chamling, GT Dhungel and M. Prasad Sharma, all the other legislators joined the BJP. The speculations relating to their joining the BJP came to fore when the 10 SDF legislators met BJP National General Secretary Ram Madhav in New Delhi recently. The SDF delegation had 10 of the 13 party MLAs, excluding party president Chamling, Dhungel and Sharma. The delegation was led by senior SDF leaders and former ministers DT Lepcha, Yugen T. Gyatso Bhutia and NK Subha. Now, Sikkim was the only state in the northeast where the BJP was not in power.
SDF सिक्किम में आज विपक्षी दल है, तो अब ये विधायक हमारे पार्टी में आए हैं, तो अब बीजेपी वहां एक कंस्ट्रक्टिव अपोजिशन के रूप में उस राज्य में अपना दायित्व निभाएगी. आगे जाकर संगठन लेजिस्लेटिव पार्टी की व्यवस्था वगैरह आगे जाकर निर्णय किए जाएंगे.
More news from Sikkim, where Supreme Court has ordered that the list of those excluded from the final Assam NRC be published only online on 31st of August. A bench comprising Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi and Justice R.F. Nariman said that like Aadhaar data, an appropriate regime should be enacted for securing the Assam NRC data. The Apex Court also said that the ongoing NRC exercise cannot be ordered to be repeated or reopened on the basis of certain legal challenges raised before it. The top court had earlier said that the final Assam NRC would be published on or by 31st of August. And the Supreme Court today directed the Noida and Greater Noida authorities to start the registration of flats in the beleaguered home buyers. The Apex Court also warned that the officers of both the authorities will be sent to jail if there is any delay on their part in handing over the possession of flats to the buyers, pronouncing its judgment in the case pertaining to the pending projects of the Amrapali Group. The top court had last month faulted banks, Noida and Greater Noida authorities for the ongoing mess at the real estate company. Cancelling Amrapali's RERA registration, the Apex Court had asked the state-run NBCC to complete the pending projects of Amrapali Group. News from Jammu and Kashmir now, where the administration has said that it is committed to maintaining peace and public order, and the police are working in this direction. In a statement, the administration said that the restrictions were completely lifted in 5 districts of Jammu. Similarly, relaxation was also given in 9 other districts of Kashmir based on local assessment of the situation. It said that media persons are being facilitated through a media center set up by the state government, and they are being provided phone and internet facilities. Thousands of calls are being made every day from these designated places. Principal Secretary of Jammu and Kashmir, Rohit Kansal, said that Eid was celebrated peacefully across the state. He added that restrictions on connectivity, however, continue as a result of security requirements.
Restrictions have been completely lifted in 5 districts of Jammu and limited to the night in other 5 districts. Local relaxation has been carried out in 9 districts of Kashmir, and a dynamic, continuous assessment of the situation is being carried out, keeping in tune with the general policy of relaxing as much as possible, easing relaxations as much as possible, facilitating people as much as possible.
Now, Kansal also said that over 300 public points for phone connectivity are functional across the Kashmir division. He added that the airport and highways were kept open as normal, and 30 flights operated from the airport on Monday. Special mention was also made of the arrangements in place for those returning to Jammu and Kashmir from Hajj pilgrimage.
In order to alleviate the problems being caused by lack of connectivity, people are being facilitated through as many as 300 public points to talk to people, offer Eid greetings, and to just give you one number, over 5,000 calls were made from the Srinagar office alone by people wishing to greet their near and dear ones.
Meanwhile, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval on Monday undertook an aerial survey of the Kashmir Valley to take stock of the security situation. The areas in which aerial survey was undertaken include Pampore, Lal Chowk area and Hazratbal. And Army Chief General Bipin Rawat has said that the forces are prepared against any threats and added that Army deployed in Jammu as a precautionary measure. Let's take a listen.
बल्कि हमारा जो मेल मिलाप जनता के साथ 70 और 80 के दशक में था, वो आप वहाँ पे जानकारी से जाइए, वहाँ पता करिए किस तरह का हमारा मेल मिलाप था वहाँ के आवाम के साथ। हम उस समय भी वहाँ पे तैनात थे, बड़ी अच्छी तरह से हमारी आवाम के साथ मेल मिलाप हमारा रहता था, और उस तरह का मेल मिलाप दोबारा अगर होना शुरू हो गया तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा।
And news just coming in, well, Election Commission has begun a meeting to discuss the determination of Vidhan Sabha seats in Jammu and Kashmir. The exercise would be made possible after the abrogation of Article 370, and once the scrapping of Article 370 was done, it was decided that the next step would be the delimitation of seats. The Jammu and Kashmir divisions have 37 and 46 seats respectively in the Legislative Assembly, and there are 4 seats from Ladakh. All right, let's get an update. Panchanan Mishra, our colleague, is now joining us on the phone line. Very good afternoon, Panchanan. Panchanan, the meeting of the Election Commission is on at the moment to discuss the delimitation of Vidhan Sabha seats in Jammu and Kashmir. What more can you tell us?
As we contacted Election Commission, the Election Commission is saying that it's an internal meeting, but certainly the meeting is on this delimitation process. You know that there is a separate delimitation commission which is constituted by central government, and the constitution is not done yet. So its constitution will decide number of seats in Jammu and Kashmir. But Election Commission on its own is taking the stock of situation, and it's discussing regarding the seats in Jammu and Kashmir. As we know that Jammu and Kashmir and earlier Ladakh, it totally has 87 seats, and 24 seats were vacant for the POK. But after this union government's decision to bifurcate this state, and now there are 2 union territories. and in one union territory, Jammu and Kashmir, there will be assembly, and we have to see that what delimitation commission, what number of seats will be there, because it was alleged that there is a misrepresentation of the seats, as 46 seats was from the Valley, Kashmir, and the 37 seats was from Jammu. So the political parties were alleging that this is a not proper combination. So there may be some altercation because delimitation commission also alters the boundaries of the constituencies. So this is an internal meeting which is going on in election commission, and official version is still remains to come out.
All right. Thank you so much, Panchanan, for all those updates on that story. Let's get to some other news now. The Supreme Court is scheduled to hear today a plea challenging the centre's decision to impose restrictions and other regressive measures in Jammu and Kashmir following the revocation of the provisions of Article 370. This plea was filed by a Congress activist. Now, the Congress activist had said that he is not expressing any opinion on Article 370, but seeking the withdrawal of a curfew, restrictions, and other alleged regressive measures, including the blocking of phone lines, internet, and news channels in Jammu and Kashmir. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has asked Anuradha Bhasin, editor of the Kashmir Times, to hand over a memo to the registrar for the urgent listing of her plea, seeking removal of restrictions on the media in the state. And on a 3-day visit to China, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar called on Chinese Vice President Wang Qishan and had also restricted delegation-level talks with his counterpart Wang Yi. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar told his Chinese counterpart that Indian decisions on Jammu and Kashmir are country's internal matter and the sole prerogative of the country, which have no implication for either the external boundaries of India or the line of actual control with China. Both leaders held in-depth discussions on bilateral issues and important political agenda. India also told China to ensure that any bilateral differences should not become disputes. Jaishankar said that China has indicated that it is open to expand access to the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra as well. Indian and Chinese sides signed 5 agreements in the fields of foreign affairs, cultural exchanges, sports cooperation, museum cooperation, and cooperation in traditional medicine.
Foreign Minister Wang Yi and I have just now co-chaired the second meeting of the high-level mechanism on cultural and people-to-people exchanges. The high-level mechanism was an outcome of the consensus reached between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi during their informal summit. It reflected our shared agreement that enhancing and strengthening cultural and people-to-people exchanges would contribute to overall development of our bilateral relations.
We are of the view that guidance provided by our leaders is the most important guarantee for the growth of China-India relations, the most important political guarantee. It is especially important to maintain high-level engagement momentum, in particular, make good preparations for the second informal summit to ensure that China-India relations will continue to move forward along the right direction. We are of the view that to ensure the success of this high-level mechanism on people-to-people and cultural exchanges, the strategic economic dialogue, financial dialogue, and other important institutionalized dialogues are very important. We need to strengthen our cooperation mechanisms, including more defense exchanges, so that we can build more practical results.
And security has been tightened in the national capital ahead of Independence Day tomorrow. A multi-layered security ring, including NSG snipers, elite SWAT commandos, will be placed around Red Fort, from where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the nation on the 73rd Independence Day. The Delhi Traffic Police has also issued an advisory for the Independence Day function at the Red Fort and for its full dress rehearsal today to ensure safe and smooth flow of vehicles across the city. Special spotters of Delhi Police and the paramilitary force personnel are also keeping an eye on the parking areas, and sniffer dogs are also part of the extensive security deployment. Delhi Police personnel have been specifically asked to keep an eye on the sky to ensure that no stray kites are also seen in the areas around the Red Fort. And special weapons and tactics, that is the SWAT unit as well as the Parakram vans of the force, are also involved in guarding the venue.
15 अगस्त जो आ रहा है उसके लिए इस पूरे एरिया के अंदर कम्युनिटी मीटिंग्स हुई हैं और पुलिस जो है सबके साथ यहाँ पे जो हमारे जो नागरिक हैं उनके साथ सहभागिता हमने बढ़ाई है और कोशिश हमारी ये है कि जितने भी एरिया के अंदर लोग हैं उनका एक तो वेरिफिकेशन और साथ साथ उनको जोड़ के जो भी यहाँ पे हैं कोशिश हमारी ये है कि बिल्कुल ही बहुत ही बढ़िया लॉ एंड ऑर्डर अरेंजमेंट्स यहाँ पे बनाए जा रहे हैं।
दिल्ली यातायात पुलिस ने हम लोगों इसमें जगह जगह बैनर्स बोर्ड्स लगाएंगे इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट्स पे जिस पे सारे दिशा निर्देश डायरेक्शंस उसमें लिखे रहेंगे और हम लोग इसमें रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे सभी से कि उनको फॉलो किया जाए।
And on to the other news, while giving a new ambience and aesthetics to the nation's biggest temple of democracy, Parliament, permanent colourful lights have been installed on its exteriors ahead of the 73rd Independence Day celebrations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate it today. Lok Sabha Speaker, Vice Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Cabinet Ministers and MPs will be present at the occasion. Now, these LED lights would frequently change colours, making the Parliament House look more grandeur. Several diplomats and leaders across the political spectrum are expected to attend a condolence meet organized for former External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj in the national capital today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will also be present at the condolence meet, which is scheduled to be held at the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium at 4 p.m. today. Remember, Sushma Swaraj passed away on the night of 6th of August following a cardiac arrest. Former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh today filed his nomination papers for the by-poll to the Rajya Sabha seat from Rajasthan. The seat got vacant after the death of BJP's MP Madan Lal Saini in the month of June. Rajasthan has 10 Rajya Sabha seats. Now, as per the schedule released by the Election Commission, the last date for filing of nomination papers is 14th of August, that is today. The polling will be held on 26th of August and the counting of votes will take place on the same day at 5 p.m. West Bengal Governor Jagdeep Dhankar today called upon Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu in New Delhi. Jagdeep Dhankar was sworn in as the 28th Governor of West Bengal on 31st of July. And rescue operations have been stepped up in flood-hit states of Gujarat, Kerala, Karnataka and Maharashtra, which are the 4 states where nearly 200 people have perished so far due to floods. Rains and floods have subsided in many parts of the flood-hit states where over 12 lakh people have been affected and the water level has started receding in the deluge-ravaged areas. Meanwhile, 9 people were killed in landslides in Uttarakhand and Jammu due to heavy rains. 5 people were also killed in West Bengal and Odisha in rain-related incidents on Monday. And in Kerala, the death toll rose to 88, while in Karnataka, Gujarat and Maharashtra, 122 people have lost their lives so far due to monsoon fury. Meanwhile, an orange alert has been issued for 6 districts of Kerala. And talking about other states, nearly 125 people were stranded on a road washed away by floods in Gujarat's Kutch district and they were rescued by the Indian Air Force. In Karnataka and Maharashtra, works have started to repair roads that have been damaged by landslides and heavy rains. The Mumbai-Bengaluru NH4, which was closed near Kolhapur in Maharashtra for the last 6 days, was partially open for traffic on Monday after the flood waters receded. And rainfall was also recorded in parts of Bihar as well as Jharkhand in the east and also in the areas of northeast India. Light rainfall was also reported from parts of Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and Punjab. And India's second moon mission, Chandrayaan-2, is expected to reach the moon's orbit on 20th of August and will land on the lunar surface on 7th of September. ISRO chairman Dr. K. Sivan said that the organization will perform a maneuver called the Trans-Lunar Injection on Wednesday, by which Chandrayaan-2 will leave the Earth's orbit and move towards the moon's orbit. He said that the maneuver will be performed early morning at around 3:30 a.m. ISRO chairman said that the spacecraft was doing very well at the present and all its systems were functioning properly. Sivan was speaking in Ahmedabad on Monday on the sidelines of an event to mark the birth centenary celebrations of father of Indian space program, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Remember, Chandrayaan-2 was successfully launched on 22nd of August.
Now, next very important, most crucial maneuver is going to happen day after tomorrow. On 14th, early morning, around 3:30, we are going to have a maneuver called Trans-Lunar Injection. That is, by this maneuver, the Chandrayaan-2 will leave the Earth and move towards Moon. On 20th August, will be the spacecraft will be reaching Moon, and there we will be carrying out the lunar orbit insertion. By this process, the Chandrayaan-2 will be around the Moon on 20th August. Subsequently, that we have planned to have a series of maneuvers around the Moon. Finally, on September 7th, we will be landing on Moon.
International news now, making it tougher for legal immigrants to become U.S. citizens. The Donald Trump administration on Monday said that those seeking public benefits like food stamp or housing assistance could be denied a green card. The rule targets migrants who rely on public benefits such as food aid or public housing for more than a year. Their applications will be rejected if the government decides that they are likely to rely on public assistance in the future. Remember, an estimated 22 million legal residents in the U.S. are without citizenship, and many of these are likely to be affected.
Some examples of the public benefits that are part of the rule are general assistance, SSI, SNAP, most forms of Medicaid, and certain subsidized housing programs. Significantly, the rule does not consider many forms of government assistance that protect children and pregnant women's health as public benefits. Generally, this includes emergency medical assistance, disaster relief, national school lunch programs, WIC, CHIP, Medicaid received by people under the age of 21 or pregnant women, as well as foster care and adoption subsidies, student and mortgage loans, energy assistance, food pantries, homeless shelters, and Head Start.
Sports news now. India's National Tennis Federation has decided that it will not seek a change of venue for the Davis Cup tie versus Pakistan in Islamabad, but it requested the world body ITF to conduct another security check there in view of the fresh diplomatic tension. Meanwhile, Sports Minister Kiren Rijiju has made it clear that the government will not have a say in the matter, as Davis Cup is not a bilateral engagement and it is organized by a world sporting body. Remember, India's participation in the Asia-Oceania Zone Group 1 Davis tie, scheduled on 14th and 15th of September, is uncertain due to high political tensions with Pakistan.
That any bilateral match or game with Pakistan will have to have the clearance of the government. It is a political call. But if it is a multilateral sport or a sporting event organized by the international bodies, then we can't take our own isolated stand. We have to be very clear. Any bilateral match with Pakistan must have political sanction. Otherwise, I cannot just go on commenting on every matches or every game.
Is it safe to travel to Pakistan? To the
Security issue is totally different from the issue of the game.
And more sports news. Aishwarya Pise became the first Indian to claim a world title in motorsports, annexing the International Motorcycling Federation World Cup in the women's category after the final round of championship in Hungary. The 23-year-old from Bengaluru also finished second in the FIM junior category on Monday. Aishwarya, who won the first round in Dubai and was placed third in Portugal, fifth in Spain and fourth in Hungary, in the subsequent outings, finished with a tally of 65 points, just 4 ahead of Portugal's Rita Vieira in the final overall standings for women. And that is a wrap on this edition of Midday News. Thanks for watching.